Hey guys, Rebel Engine 95, recording live from your local county prison cell. It is currently 1 in the morning when I am deciding to record this for some reason. So one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to have incredible mental clarity and insight that I wouldn't be able to get while awake, or I won't be able to form like 4 to 5 consecutive words together at a time. Um, it's really stupid for me to have decided to do this now, but I just feel like I'm not gonna do it otherwise. Um, so yeah, I've decided on a matchup that was something I'd meant to do for a while. I'm backed up on all these fights I have. At this point, it's like I see a fight, I make a thumbnail for it, and I let it sit there for like a couple of weeks at a time. And sometimes I even come up with a fight and do it. Do that before the one I had saved. So whatever. But this one was one that I've seen a lot of, but it's also one of those ones where I've seen a lot of back and forth about it. It's one of those fights where there's a lot of similar characters to the two combatants, so you can kind of interchange them. Kind of think like Virgil, Sashomaru, Itachi, Byakuya, uh, so on and so forth. Like you can kind of just exchange any of those guys for each other. Um, this one just happens to be about robot waifus. So yeah, this is Penny Polendina from Ruby and Aegis from Persona, more specifically the Persona 3 series, though she has a pretty big presence in 4 Ultimax, but all the Persona 3 characters except the protagonist do. Um, I'm gonna try not to go too much into like Persona mechanics because I don't know them. Because Persona is one of those series that I really like the uh, characters, I really like the lore of and everything. Um, but it's really hard to understand what the hell is going on a lot of the time, and it's like I suck at RPGs. Like I'm bad at every RPG except for Pokemon because Pokemon's the simplest RPG ever made. And let's not even get into my opinions on Ruby. So, um, this is kind of an interesting fight because both of these characters, I mean, they're both like Pinocchio characters, but in Penny's case, literally based on Pinocchio. But they both have kind of the same thing where, like, they're both made to be machines meant for one specific thing. Um, then they kind of discover their humanity and they, become more humanistic, and then they get given, due to their journey, they become worthy of a power that they wouldn't have been otherwise if they had stayed a machine. So, that sort of thing happens. In Penny's case, it's the Winter Maiden powers and the ability to actually become a human. And in Aegis's case, it's the ability to become the wild card and adopt the protagonist's, persona selection, uh, most notably Orpheus. So, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So, going into things, so both of these characters are androids. Um, Penny is like artificial human flesh covering a robot body. Um, she does, however, have a living aura. Right now, I've been over Ruby characters a lot, especially ones with aura, and they all essentially have, aura essentially it's the embodiment of a person's soul, and they're able to use it as kind of like a force field to, block incoming damage, but when their aura runs out, it's, it takes a physical toll on them when to fight without it, right? Like if they run out of aura, then they're essentially just sitting there, because they're doing these high effort impact moves that wouldn't really be possible without it. It also lets you generate a semblance, though Penny, I don't believe has a semblance. I think she's a robot, so she didn't really need one. To my knowledge, if there's some confirmation that Penny has a semblance or something, it's clearly not. It clearly wasn't a big enough. It clearly didn't have a big enough impact on things that it needed to be shown. Um, Penny's one of the few characters I can pretty assuredly do this with because, well, spoilers, she's dead. Uh, but yeah, within her robot body, she also has multiple swords that are connected via cables to her, so she can remotely control these swords wherever, like strings, Pinocchio, and she can even use them to, like shoot lasers at people, right? Uh, she then also becomes able to. Well, she was able to fly before, I believe, right? She was able to. Yeah, I think she was able to fly before. And when she got the Winter Maiden powers, she was able to fly just using that without actually having to like use the rocket thrusters on her legs, basically. Um, so she was able to, like she's able to generate wind, be able to generate like snow and blizzards and whatnot just from nothingness. So it's a very, and this helps her. This increases her speed. This does all these other things, but it also just lets her like, she just controls the nature around her. It's to this gigantic scale. In terms of power, she was able to hit a truck or get hit by a truck rather without being scathed. She was able to um, basically catch a falling like basically like catch a fucking space station essentially from falling. Not really, but kind of like a space station, I guess you would say it. It was meant to be placed an an object meant to be placed into orbit, right? Um, she was able to launch an object, basically a rocket. She was basically able to catch a rocket and keep it from falling onto a city. Um, though this did essentially kind of destroy her, she was also susceptible to viruses and things like that. And we're going to assume that it would be Robot Penny and not Human Penny, because towards the end of her character arc in the series, her soul gets transferred into a human body, and her robot body just kind of dies. But then she also dies. So like it's like, oh, she finally became human, and then she with that became the ability to die. Um, I would assume that we're going with Robot Penny, right? Because Robot Penny is clearly capable of so much more. Though she did get like aura swords or whatever for a short time, and then I'm gonna go ahead and say Robot Penny because also robots is the theme of the fight. Anyway, next Aegis. So Aegis is a one of is the I think she I don't know if she was the first, but Aegis is one in a series of machines created to hunt down and kill shadows, um, which is why she ended up becoming part of the Shadow Operatives, or Seas, as the organization was known as. And she was also, her artificial intelligence was able to generate human emotion. So while she wasn't capable of human emotion at first in the series, she later develops it over time, and it actually becomes kind of like traumatic for her. But anyway, because she's a robot, she is not only, has, like a metal body and everything. She also has essentially machine guns that she can shoot from her hands, right? And she also has an ability known as Orgia mode, which is kind of like a an over limiter, like a rage mode. She gains this giant. She gains an attack like she, she can move like so much faster, so much more stronger to the point where another robot, her sister, what was it, Mephis, I think her name was able to just completely outclass the Shadow Operatives in a like 3 or 4 on 1 fight by using it. So it's like a tremendous boost in speed and power. But she kind of like loses consciousness while using it, and her robot, like her AI, just kind of takes over her conscious thought. So she's not able to think consciously. So she really can't make judgment calls or distinguish like friend and foe or whatever. She only can like operate within her programming at that point. Um, but we'll step on that a little bit later. But that is one of her big like trump cards. Other than that, she is capable of also generating a persona, meaning she has a soul, because a persona is also, in this point in the series, the manifestation of a person's soul, right? Where her original persona being Chariot, and then later, uh, transforming into Artemis. Now, Artemis is kind of like it's more of a support role persona, but it's kind of like a jack of all trades. I mean, it can be like a backup healer. It's got a good power output, but it's mainly like support spells. It's mainly boosting the allies. So in a one-on-one fight, while it's good because it has all this coverage, it's also less effective in a one-on-one scenario. Um, Now we know that towards the end of the series in Persona 3 Fez, I refer to it as the DLC of Persona 3, but it was kind of just like a shortened special edition kind of game, sequel game. Um, I guess she's actually become so she's developed so many emotions that she's actually granted the ability to become the wild card, meaning that she's able to have multiple personas. Like I said, Orpheus being the chief among them because it belonged to the protagonist. However, with this exchange, when she went to the Velvet Room and was offered this, she had to specifically give up Orgia mode. Now, I don't know exactly how this timeline works. I think there was something about Persona 3 Fez being like, I don't exactly remember. I should have looked it up, but it might have been like a simulation or it might have been like some other bullshit. I don't know. But like it never, not that it didn't happen, but it kind of like Sonic 06 didn't happen. Like it happened so that it could not happen or something. Some shit like that. The point is, in Arena 4 and Ultimate, well, sorry, specifically Ultimax, because I believe Ultimax is supposed to be the canonical sequel to the series, canonical, sequel to these, to Persona 3 and 4. Um, she's, Aegis is using Orgia mode. So we know she's capable of it. Though I think she does also summon. I think she also does summon like multiple personas in her climax, but whatever. But so I believe Orgia mode is the go-to version of guess that we're using, and we're gonna be steering away from the protag ones, especially just because like if you do that, you go into like, oh well, then she can use Thor and she can use Orochi and she can use King Frost and she can use this and she can use that, and that's just a lot to go off of. So I'm gonna go with she can use Orgia mode and she can use Athena, right? That would be my go-to. So who do I think would win this? This is really a class. I mean, there's a couple of things to consider here. I think generally the existence of a persona would be a giant benefit um, to Aegis. And this doesn't really follow stand rules because personas kind of like. I mean, Persona has different rules in every incarnation of it, generally speaking, there is always a different world in which a persona can be summoned in, and not the real world. And but like anyone can be brought into that world usually, and they can interact with the personas. And shadows have been shown to interact with the real world during like certain times. So we're going to assume that this somehow canonically this fight can happen where Aegis can use the persona and Penny would be able to observe it, right? So in that case, um, the existence of a persona just being a backup kind of fighter would be great. It's the same sort of thing with Weiss versus Mitsuru, but Weiss also has a summon she can use. Um, Penny's advantage over Aegis isn't actually the maiden power, because the maiden power, while, incredibly powerful, is not countered, but it can be approximated at least with Orgia mode. Orgia mode's not quite as powerful as the maiden power, I don't think, because it's a solo power boost and not like an environmental manipulation. Um, but in fact, actually, you know what? Scratch that. Orgia mode would probably be a counter for Aura, I would say, because Penny can, take a bunch of hits and boost her defenses, and she can't really heal herself with Aura, but she can, take more hits because of it. But if Aegis needs to hit harder, she has that option. Um, as far as, yeah, so the maiden powers are kind of countered by, I guess, Athena. I don't want to say they're evenly matched necessarily, but they're two things that are outside of the two characters themselves fighting. In terms of actual power output, just generally, I think Penny has this. Um, so the question then becomes: Is Penny's like arsenal and just general power output going to be better than Aegis and her, and the persona, right? It's tough to say because of how, well-rounded of a persona Athena is. I'm probably I'm probably gonna say no. And the basis isn't that Penny couldn't beat it isn't that Penny couldn't beat Aegis or Athena. It's the fact that every time we see Penny do one of these incredible feats, right? Like really every big fight Penny's been in, she's almost been destroyed, right? And she's almost always had help. Going at it alone, Penny's also she's very naive when it comes to combat, right? She's very capable. She is combat ready, as she says, but she's not exactly like battle hardened. Aegis is meant. Penny was. Penny was a. Penny was created as a girl. Penny was created as a daughter first and a weapon last. Aegis was created as a weapon first, and she later became a person, right? So in terms of combat ability, I think that and just general experience and whatnot, I think Aegis probably has the advantage here. This is kind of close, and it's better than that Penny versus Elisa fight I did back when, though that was pretty good at the time because it was early stage Penny. Um, but yeah, I'm glad I got this one out of the way. Anyway, Purple Engine 95. See you.